All right, so there we have Archie's opinion on the Hall of Fame class of 2020, the first class of the We Can't Wrestle Hall of Fame. And everybody, the way that it went down was all the panelists nominated 8 names, and then based on those nominations, we broke it down to a 20-man ballot. And some names didn't make the ballot, and I'm trying to discuss everybody's options that didn't make the ballot, why they brought that person up, etc. So the ones that Archie did nominate that did make the ballot were Bobby Heenan, Randy Savage, Steve Austin, and I think that's it. Okay. So
I didn't have The Undertaker? Wow.
You did not.
Damn.
So
I suck.
Archie's original. Let's go through these. All right, we'll start here. And Aaron can give his opinion also. Archie, you have to defend your decision.
Yes.
And maybe you nominate this person next year and they make the ballot.
Never know.
CM Punk.
For the few years that he was in the WWE, excuse me, there was no one better in the ring, on the mic. That pipe bomb promo made me a wrestling fan again. And I know he pulled a lot of political bullshit at the ending and then walked out when he shouldn't have.
But he was also, in his defense, he was working in a shitty work environment.
Yes.
You know, and there are parts of that whole story where I side with WWE, and there are parts where I side with him, you know.
Right. I agree.
I think they were both to blame. But I kind of sort of agree with you on, and here's my thing on Punk. I think that one day, maybe next year, I don't know, but one day he's going to be on my list because I agree with you that in the modern era of professional wrestling, he is one of the few standout performers, i.e.
Definitely.
Punk, Cena, Daniel Bryan.
Right.
Hate me if you want, people, but Roman Reigns.
No, I agree.
He's one of those few standout performers.
Right.
And I can see why you would have nominated him. Because, again, it was hard to make the list because it's like Chad said in our first segment, it's your first class. You have there's so many people to choose from, and it was painstaking to make the list. Aaron, what do you think about Archie bringing up CM Punk?
It's fine if he wants to, but I can't. It's like I told Chad and Nate on the other segment. There's a lot of people I wanted to vote for just because I wanted to vote with my heart, but I'd have to pick somebody else before them. And if Archie wants to pick Cookie Monster, that's cool. But I gotta think there's people I'm gonna put on there before.
Well, Aaron had to scratch off Mantar to put Bruno on. You know, I mean,
right. I scratched off the Goon like 4 times.
Like, do I really want Max Moon on this list?
Hey, Paul Diamond was a journeyman wrestler.
For everything that Max Moon did, I mean, come on.
I gotta make you guys laugh real quick about Max Moon. There was another group doing a virtual meet and greet with him, and
it was out of this world, wasn't it?
I wish it was out of this world. Because I didn't go on when it first started. I think I went on like an hour in, but then I went back and watched the hour I missed. And I get on there, and there is Paul Diamond wearing a Kato mask from Orient Express. Now, obviously, yes, Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond were the Orient Express, and Paul Diamond played Kato. But I'm like, wait a minute. They've been promoting for a month that they're going to have Max Moon on, and they dressed him up as Kato. I'm like, what a rib. I mean, like, wow. You know, I mean, if he's gonna be Max Moon is obviously who he was known as. You know, that's his more popular. You know,
my goodness. Another one on your list, Shane Douglas. I thought that was kind of out of left field. Now,
well, you know how I feel about Shane.
But then I started thinking about my criteria that I sent you.
Right.
I said someone who was a determining factor in a top star in a promotion or a territory for an extended period of time?
Right.
And was there a more top star in ECW than Shane Douglas? So I
Right.
guess, I mean, you know,
In my opinion, there were only 4 big names in ECW that were at the top the whole time. They had great names. I'm not disregarding them. But the 4 top guys at all time were Shane Douglas, Raven, Sandman, and Chad Austin.
Hey-o.
So, and I'm not joking. I've told you this before. When you told me you were going to have a podcast on We Can't Wrestle with Chad Austin, my exact words to you were, "You're going to have ice cold Chad Austin on the show," and you went, "You know who he is?" And I'm like, "Yes, of course I know who he is." I love Chad Austin in ECW when he would come out and do his spiel, and then they'd call 911 on him to get him out of the ring. It was like the funniest thing ever. But Shane Douglas is and was what ECW was made on, you know, and just that. He in WCW as a younger Shane Douglas with Ricky Steamboat, great tag team. In WWF, granted, the Dean Douglas character wasn't great for everybody, but it wasn't bad. And had he not gotten into a war with the Clique, maybe he would have survived. But then he went back to ECW and was even better. And then he made it to finally to WCW and in a better role again with the Radicals. But then they put Viagra on a pole and had him fight Ric Flair, and that kind of ruined him. So, but yeah, Shane had to be on my list, not because I love him, and again, like you said, your criteria, he's got to be on there.
Aaron, any thoughts on Shane Douglas?
I am a Shane Douglas fan, and I'm not going to knock the guy, but he wouldn't have been on the first ballot of people that I'm putting in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
The next guy that on Archie's list that and oh man, this one is one we're going to differ on because I don't even think, I hate to say this, I don't even think that I would nominate this guy 4 years from now. When I'm choosing between all the wrestlers that I can choose, I don't know if he's on my first string, third string, eighth string Hall of Fame. But that's not me. This is your list.
Right.
Sting.
He was on top of WCW for many years. And
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Ric Flair handpicked him to be his predecessor. And when he had that whole falling out with Jim Herd, they ended up making it Luger because Flair left. But Sting grew from just a young blonde-haired surfer guy into a major part of that company. And, I mean, a lot of guys are like, okay, the Crow gimmick was okay, but it wasn't anything great. And, yeah, they wasted it with the whole Hogan thing. But Sting, back then, Sting was it, in my opinion. And he deserves to be in any Hall of Fame because, well, he's Sting. Nowadays, with him going to AEW, he's grasping at straws. But from 93 till 99, Sting was it, in my opinion.
I'm doing another post-it note here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a Sting debate one of these days.
Okay.
Aaron?
Did we talk about Sting on the air on the last one we did, or was it just us bullshitting?
No, it was just the bullshitting.
Okay. I'm a Sting fan. I like Sting. Always have, always will. And I'm not even as down on a list as Nate would be on saying like 8th or 9th or whatever, but I wouldn't put him on my first. Like, if this thing keeps going 4 years from now, I probably wouldn't put Sting on it. It might be like my 5th or 6th nomination list.
Understandable.
So we got 2 more left on Archie's list. And both of them, I think, are solid picks.
Okay.
The first one, solid pick, Paul Heyman.
Definitely. From starting from, being the I'm going to say it, the pissant that he was in WCW, to revolutionizing wrestling with ECW
Mm-hmm.
to then coming in back to
That's
the
right,
WWE.
Vince Russo. Did you hear that, Vince Russo? Anyway, go ahead, Archie.
Coming back to the WWE and what he did with Brock Lesnar. Hell, what he did with Curtis Axel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he made guys that shouldn't have been stars, and he took guys that were going to be the next big thing, to borrow the nickname of Brock Lesnar, and made them bigger than they ever could have been without him, in my opinion.
And one of the best talkers in the history of the business.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. If anybody who is a current fan doesn't watch Talking Smack on Saturday mornings, you're missing out, because Paul Heyman delivers some of the best promos, because he's one of the hosts, that I've ever seen. And he makes you believe everything he's saying.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, anything on Paulie?
I'd say I couldn't put, if I had to pick, I couldn't put Paul Heyman in there before like a Jim Cornette. Like, if Jim Cornette's not in there yet, I wouldn't put Paul Heyman in there.
I agree with that.
And you know how much I love Cornette. But see, I can justify at least both of them being on the same list, because they both were great on the mic,
Yes.
amazing managers, promoted great promotions, and for their two sides of how they feel about the business, experts is at what they do.
Well, the reason I would give it to Cornette, like, if you made me choose, like if you told me, look, you're the final vote, it's either Cornette or Paul. Of course, Corny would get the vote, mainly because Jim, when he had the book, knew how to book wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Paulie kind of needed somebody to filter him,
Right?
you know, to get, you know, they say it about Vince Russo, you could say it about Paul Heyman. You need somebody to be the in between. That when you know.
Actually, with Paulie, it's not so much the creative; it's the money.
Well, yes, but you know, for every great idea Paul Heyman has, there's probably 4 bad ones that you've got. No, we're not doing that tonight. You know what I mean? Where with Jim Cornette, for every 10 good ideas he has, there's maybe 1 bad one.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you hear him talk in his shoot interviews, and then you hear other people talk of Jim Cornette, except for wanting to take his head off because they got into an argument, he had a solid mind for the business and knew how to put people over.
Yeah.
Not just over his guys, but anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You know, he talks about the Rock and Roll Express and says, we didn't need to win every single night. We could have lost every single night, but give us that one win that at least doesn't bury us, you know?
Right. The last one on Archie's list, and then we will wrap up this segment. And this is actually one, when I saw it on Archie's list, I was like, I can put some support behind this person. And I think that maybe not next year, but possibly the year after or something, I could put this person on my list, because we talked about Sherry Martel earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Besides Sherry Martel, my opinion, second to Sherry Martel, the greatest women's manager of all time, woman. And I think you're absolutely right. I think Nancy Sullivan is a Hall of Famer.
You go back and you watch her early stuff with Kevin Sullivan, and she was Dark Angel. You believe that woman was possessed by the devil. And then you go back and you watch her when she was delivering a promo to Ric Flair about being the Horseman's manager.
Woman in Doom, man.
Yeah, I mean,
what a combo.
I told you this before during another show that we did. I liked the Doom version with Woman. I didn't like them with Teddy Long.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because she gave them a different aspect. They weren't just 2 brutish guys. They were there doing bidding.
And let's be honest. You've got a Southern wrestling promotion, and you put a white woman with 2 black guys,
right, that are wearing hoods.
I mean, yeah, they knew that. They knew what they were fucking doing.
Right.
Let's not, let's say what it is.
And for all intents and purposes, she was playing it to the T that they were there to do what she told them to do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
another thing you can say about her is Robin Green made Misty Hyatt a face.
Yeah.
Right.
With that whole Steiner thing.
Yep.
Like Misty Hyatt is shouldn't say is, but at the time was a attractive woman, but didn't have like a personality that people wanted to have, like wanted to cheer.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you bring like a Robin Green into the situation, and she's like, oh man, it's like Missy, she might be kind of an ass, but like Robin Green's taking Rick's money, and
What a bitch.
what a
Yeah.
bitch. And even Missy's character was like, you're being kind of a bitch, like this dude's money and shit, and he's a simpleton, and you're taking advantage of him and everything.
Right.
Right.
And I don't want to talk too much over what Archie was saying.
No. You're fine. You're fine.
And I also know that we shouldn't talk about the guy a lot, but the fucking Kevin Sullivan, Chris Benoit shit
Right.
was the whole fucking like Memphis placard, like the personal conflicts equal cash. Like that's what it is.
I was always surprised that when Benoit left WCW and WWE hired him, that they didn't give woman an on-air role either. And I understand.
I think at that point she didn't want it. I think at that point she just wanted to be a mom.
Can you imagine her being a manager, and not Benoit's manager? She didn't need to manage Benoit.
Mm-hmm.
But if she would have been with somebody like when they debuted Mordecai as the white version of the Undertaker, if like woman would have been there with him, all dressed in white, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or you see a lot of that same trait from in the modern product. Scarlett Bordeaux with
Karrion
Kross. She's giving a lot of that woman vibe off with the being satanic and being evil, and
Mm-hmm.
So Nancy Sullivan definitely helped women want to be managers and involved in the wrestling business.
And you skip over all that. I mean, her and Sandman.
Oh yeah.
It didn't get any national play, but that was fantastic.
Yep.
The funny thing is, I didn't know who, because again, I started watching wrestling in late '80s, early '90s. I didn't know who Woman was until I started watching ECW.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I didn't know of her with Kevin Sullivan back in the day, and with Ric Flair and the Horsemen,
right,
and with Doom. So when I watched her in ECW, and then I went back and found out more about her, the career that she spanned was like 20 some odd years,
mm-hmm.
and never really left the limelight, because she went from Florida with Sullivan, and then into the NWA and WCW. Then from there went to ECW and started being with the Sandman and doing what she was doing. When you guys are watching ECW right now, and when you get up to the part when the Sandman loses his sight because Tommy Cairo hits him with the Singapore cane in the face, and then he turns on Tommy Dreamer, and Woman is with the Sandman. She is 90% of that turn.
Mm-hmm.
She is the reason the Sandman did what he did, because she talked him into it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all her up until then,
And we will end on Ric Flair always saying, "Woman, oh woman, won't you marry me now?" What a great line. And that will wrap it up for this segment in the Hall of Fame show. Aaron, Archie, thank you for hanging out with me.
Thank you as well. Can I plug something real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
I talked about it with Nate, and I've been toying with it, and I think it's going to be done. This Thursday night will be the debut and pilot of Living in the War here on the We Can't Wrestle page. What that's going to be is me looking over and grading the Wednesday night war that goes on between NXT and AEW. And we're going to be on a grading schedule of how the promo, the segments and matches go along, and which show I think did the better job, because it really doesn't come down to great ratings anymore, no matter what they're pulling off,
Mm-hmm.
And during the show, I'll bring on a couple of people who are watching, like we are now with here on StreamYard, and they can give me their input as well. And we might even see a little bit of trolley trivia while that is going on as well.
Hoorah!
So,
All right. Yes, I am looking forward to that again. As Archie said, that will be in the We Can't Wrestle podcast Facebook group every
Yes.
Thursday night.
probably around 10 p.m. So won't be too late.
Cool. I am excited about that. And whenever work allows, I may even poke my stinking head in there once in a while.
Sounds good.
But that being said, guys, again, thank you for joining me in this segment of the Hall of Fame edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast.